Let's go through these questions one at a time. I also want to talk about numbers 1 and 2 on the quiz. Even though you guys just got done helping each other, I want to emphasize a couple of different points because a number of people messed up positive and negative on numbers 1 and 2, and I don't want that to happen. Some people also did reciprocals of rise over run. So we need to make sure we're all on the same page with that, okay? All right, so, first question. Write the equation of the line whose slope is -1/2 and whose y-intercept is 2. This should be a phenomenally easy question. Every single person in the room should get this right every single time, and you should hope that I create a test that is all about those questions. So, general equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. Who are 2 studs in this class?
What?
Studs, strong boys.
Me.
1, 2, come here.
Me.
I'm bro. Like,
Yeah, Davis.
Back counter back there, underneath the pictures on the left, on the right. Pictures on the right, underneath there. Look up.
These falls down.
David just falls.
Hey, bro, he's gonna fall. He's gonna fall.
Go. Okay,
Drip it, Joe.
now, drop it.
Who's that?
That's good, right there's fine. Thank you, boys.
Imagine if he picked that, Aaron.
Randy,
Oh, Joe.
hey, Alex,
Hey,
Okay.
hey.
now,
All right.
general equation of a line. Y equals mx plus b. John, heading again, buddy. Where m stands for? Slope. B stands for? Good. So it tells me here, the slope is -1/2. So therefore, it's y equals -1/2 x. And what's the y-intercept? 2. Is that 2 positive or negative? Plus 2. Y equals -1/2 x plus 2. That's the answer. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Next up, find the slope. This is one of those ones where you can really do it one of 2 ways. You can draw it on a graph and count, or you can plug in the formula. If you plug in the formula, it goes something like this. Slope is y from the second point minus y from the first over x from the second minus x from the first. It makes no difference which one is the first or second point, but I like to do it so that when I subtract, I get positive y's. So I'll make this point 2 and this point 1. So I'm going to get, I set my formula up. There's my line, there's my 2 subtract symbols. Bless you. 7 minus 3. 1 minus -2.
Does it always have to be subtraction?
Yes, for this formula always. So I get 7 minus 3 is 4. 1 plus 2, circle agregar, is 3. So 4/3. I want to write these coordinates on the side here. -2, 3, 1, 7. -2, 3, 1, 7. Let me write them again. -2, 3, 1, 7. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to scroll the page up a little, and I want to show you the other way to do it, where I can plot these points. So here's -2, 3. -2, 3 is right here. And the other point is 1, 7. 1. Oh, that's not right. Positive 1, 7. Over here. So how do I get from this point here to this point up here? I go up 4 over 3. So the slope is 4/3. So you can do it either way. You can draw the picture, plot the points, count, just like you did on your quiz, right? That's how you did the first 4 questions on the quiz. Or you can use the formula y from the second minus y from the first over x from the second minus x from the first. Now, let me talk a little bit about your quiz. These are not the exact same questions on the quiz, but it's a similar concept. Some people on the quiz would have written that the answer was 3/4. The answer is not 3/4. The 3 is part of the answer and the 4 is part of the answer, but you're putting them in the wrong place. When we look at this and we find the slope looking at it or by inspecting it, we're using the idea of the fact that slope is equal to rise over run. Tell me when my arm is moving in the rise direction. Now, there we go. So you have to count this first. That's up first. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. That's the run, the sideways. So it's 4 over 3, not 3 over 4. Unfortunately, what I have seen with a number of you guys is you're flipping or taking the reciprocal of what the slope works out to be. We can't have that. Take a look at your quiz for just a second and see if on number 2 or number 1, you put the reciprocal of the correct answer. The correct answer on number 1 should have been -2 over 1. I'm looking here at Giselle, she has -1/2. Do you see how you did it backwards? Okay? That's very, very, very important to realize if you're making that kind of mistake, so that you don't repeat that kind of mistake. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, listen, this is what learning is all about. It is never, ever a sin, and you are never bad if you get something wrong. You will get things wrong. You are going to make mistakes from now until the day you die. It's never gonna change.
What if I don't?
But what matters is how you react to those mistakes. Do you make a mistake and then say to yourself, okay, how do I fix this? What do I have to do to not repeat that mistake or not make that mistake again? That's a really important thing, okay? All right, so the next thing I want to talk about with respect to these graphs here is whether a graph is negative or positive. Now, we do slopes from left to right, just like we read the page you're looking at. All right? Slopes go from left to right. We talked before about how if the slope goes up, it's a positive slope. If the slope goes down, it's a negative slope. Is this going up or down? Left to right?
Down.
Down. So therefore, this has a negative slope, and it's gonna be what over what? I'm going down 1 over 3. So make sure you recognize, is this going to be a positive or a negative slope? Positive, and more or less, I'm being a little liberal here, but up 2 over 1. Okay? Last thing I want to talk about is the difference between a zero slope and a no slope. See how this is positive going up, this is negative going down. What did we say this slope perfectly straight across was?
0.
0, and that makes sense, because what number is between the negatives and the positives?
0.
0, so that should be a zero slope. What I have not talked about until today, Joe, turn, face forward, pen off desk. Now, what we haven't talked about until today is the idea of a perfectly vertical line, a line that goes straight up and down. That line has no slope. And the way we want to think about it is this. Pretend that you had a ball, soccer ball, baseball, tennis ball, just not a football, something perfectly round. And you were to take the ball and put it on perfectly flat level ground. And you don't touch it. Is the ball gonna go anywhere? No, it's gonna stay perfectly still. There is no slope there. As soon as the ball finds a slope, it's gonna roll. It's gonna roll down the hill, etc. So if there's no if there's 0, if the slope is 0, it doesn't move anywhere. But what would happen if you tried to put a ball on this? Could you put a ball on that? No, it doesn't make any sense. So the concept of slope has no meaning, so we call it no slope. Now, another way to look at it would be this. If we use the idea of rise over run, you could say, well, I'm going up 3, and then after I go up 3, I'm going over 0. Well, in mathematics, we can't have a fraction with a 0 in the denominator. We call that undefined. Okay? So 3 over 0 is undefined, so we would say that there's no slope there. It doesn't, we can't understand. All right. So, I just wanted to review quickly with you the concepts of slope. We did that. We went over those first questions, and now, y equals mx plus b stuff, it wants us to graph the line y equals negative 3x plus 5. When I look at this, I automatically should be able to tell what the slope and the y-intercept are. What's the slope of this? Is it 3? Come on, guys, what's the slope there? Negative 3. That negative is very important because it means you're going to go down. What's the y-intercept? 5. So I begin at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I go down 3. 1, 2, 3 over 1. down 3 over 1. Down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1. 1, 2, 3, over 1. And then I connect all of those points, and I have my line drawn.
Do you have to
Y
label
equals
it?
negative 3x plus 5. Yes, thank you for mentioning that, Davis. You should label the line y equals negative 3x plus 5, so that everybody can see where it is, okay? All right, now, that was the front page of your paper. If you turn it over, you will see to graph more lines, but there's something very different about these lines. What do you notice?
Oh, they're y plus x to, they're an equation.
They are an equation, just like the other ones. However, they're not in proper form. See, it's supposed to be in the form y equals mx plus b. Y equals solving for y, getting y all by itself. It's supposed to be in that form, y equals. Does that say y equals? No. So you need to do some manipulating on this until it says y equals. Now, I had a question. If I was over here, and forget about the 2x for a minute, what if it just said y plus 2 equals 5? How would you solve that equation? Dibs?
Minus 2.
Minus the 2, good. So now it says y plus 2x equals 5. What do you think you do? You minus the 2x, the same way you would have minus the 5. But as we learned earlier when we did literal equations, these go die-die, and I get y equals negative 2x plus 5. Y equals negative 2x. Why is this taking so long to catch up? Oh, God, that's ugly. Y equals negative 2x plus 5. So now it says y equals. And as soon as it says y equals, we can do it. It's like, well, you remember the movie The Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Oh, yeah,
Right? There's a point where he has to get between the two, over the gorge and between the chasm or whatever, and he says you gotta take a leap of faith. So he had to get it in that form, or another one where the ball would roll toward his head and everything, and it says only the repentant man shall pass, and he had to like bow down like he was in repentance, and so on and so forth. Well, there's proper forms for how we're going to address things. I've said this before, that I'm not a fan of President Obama at all. I think his policies are terrible. I think there's things about the man that are respectable, but his policies I don't like. But if President Obama walks through that door, I am not going to treat him with disrespect. There's a proper form for addressing the President of the United States of America. And you say, hello, Mr. President, sir. That is just the correct way to address the President. On the night of the election, when Donald Trump won the election, I was listening to the newscasters and his friends talking about the victory, and they'd all go, well, when Donald, or when Mr. Trump, and they all had to stop and say, when President-elect Trump. Every single time, even though they were friends, because there's a proper form to say this. I have argued with many referees and officials at sporting games. I never, ever, ever go up and start calling them names. I always go, excuse me, referee, sir, can I have a moment of your time? Sir, can we talk about that? I always get them away from the crowds. I don't want people hearing what I'm saying. I don't want to rile anybody up who's watching the game. I always say it very quietly. I say it under my breath. I don't want it to become a contentious situation. So likewise, when we are doing the equation of a line, if you don't get it in the right form, you're not going to get what you want. Usually, if I address an official respectfully, the official will normally see my point of view. And he's not necessarily going to change the bad call, but he'll give me the next call. That's the way it usually works. So I take a look over here. I did my manipulation. Now I have y equals negative 2x plus 5. That means the slope is negative 2, and it means the y-intercept is 5. So I begin at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the first mark that I make. Then I'm going to go down 2, 1, 2, over 1. Down 2, over 1. Down 2, over 1. Down 2, over 1. Do the back side here. And there's my line graph. Again, just like David said before, write the original name on it, y plus 2x equals 5. Okay? So the only difference between this one and the one we've been doing the last couple of days is that you have to turn around and get it into y equals form. Once it's in y equals form, you just do what you already know how to do. Everybody try the middle one, the one that says y minus x equals -3. Yes, Joe? Nope, you used up your passes. Oh, let me look. I thought you used up all 5. I think it's tomorrow.
No, guys,
Today?
it's Tuesday.
No, but, yeah, I did this on
Actually, Joe, you didn't use just one, you used 4. But there is one left.
Yeah, and I get all 5 of them.
Take your pass. Okay. Y minus x equals 3. Make sure you solve for y. Make it say y equals. And as soon as you're done making it say y equals, then you can turn around and graph it. Yes?
Do I put the x by itself or do I have to combine?
No, you want the y by itself. Oh, when you get it to the other side, you don't combine it with the number. X's are different than numbers. The only way you can combine is if you're multiplying, and you're not, you're adding.
So x has to be x plus minus -3?
X minus 3.
Okay.
Okay. I thought I had one larger, but I don't. Now. Y minus x equals -3. Add x to both sides, get that y by itself. Y equals x minus 3. What's the slope, everybody? What number's in front of that x? 1. And what's the y-intercept? -3. So I begin here at -3, up 1 over 1. And there's my line.
Why is it that way?
Because when you added the x to both sides, it becomes a +1 slope, not a -1 slope.
Okay.
That's the importance. What you just mentioned there, Davis, is the importance of getting it in the right form. If you don't get it in the right form, your slope will always be opposite. And it'll go up when it should go down and down when it should go up, and you get every one of them wrong.
Okay.
All right, now, next thing. Let's take a look at this last equation. What's the bad thing about this last equation? It says 2y. What's it supposed to say?
Why?
2y means what? 2y. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Multiply. If I wanted to add, there'd be a plus in between. It means multiply by 2. So I have to do the opposite of multiply by 2. What's the opposite of multiplying by 2? Divide by 2. So I divide everything by 2. And that gives me y equals 3/2 x minus 4. Once I do that, what's the slope? Everybody, what's the slope? 3 over 2, good. What's the y-intercept? -4, good. Graph it. Where do you begin?
Right, 0.
No. Begin. Bless you.
The 4.
Yeah, what kind of 4? -4. You begin at -4. How do you move? How do you move? Come on, how do you move?
Moving them.
Move the side.
How do you move? What over what?
3 over 2.
Up 3 over 2. Good. Make sure your paper says that.
What does the 4 mean?
What's the what?
The 4 mean?
-4. That's where you begin.
Oh, my pen.
Okay. So, I begin at -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There I begin. How do I move?
-4.
What? Move.
Up 3 over 2.
Up 3 over 2. 1, 2, 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 3 over 2. And there we go. Okay? Now, we have one more day, this tomorrow, and then you should be good at it, right? Should have a start to understanding today. What does M stand for? Move and move. What's P stand for? And why intercept?
So, Chris, are you gonna be in the library today?
Yep.